Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing? Going to say a very quick good morning to Haribo Starmix244 over on Instagram, who's just said good morning to me. Good morning to you. How you doing, my friend? Good of you to be here. Gonna wow. I mean, I could probably end the show here, to be perfectly honest. My hype man, Peter McKenna, is in the chat over on YouTube, and he has said this: "The end of the world as we know it is nigh, because Mark Anthony's Breakfast Show is back, bringing the best construction and demolition machinery news on the planet. Hashtag game changer." Well, Peter, what more can I say? Thank you very much indeed for that. Dan is getting a bit of latency over on YouTube, which is not a great surprise. Alex Latham, haven't seen Alex for a little while. How are you doing, Alex? Good to see you back again. Keep up the good work on all of the access platform training and stuff. Good to see that going on. Good morning, everyone. I'm feeling bloated. Oh yeah, when you go out for your wife's birthday, apparently you are licensed to eat your body weight. Which I did. I did okay. All healthy stuff. Much of it drenched in butter, but it was all healthy stuff. But yeah, fantastic meal. If ever you find yourself in Barnes, um, on the outskirts of London, not far from Hammersmith and Chiswick and that sort of place, if you ever find yourself there and hungry and with a huge amount of cash in your back pocket, I would recommend visiting Rick Stein's place. Food was fantastic, service even better. No parking, bizarrely, which I thought was a little odd. But yeah, absolutely fantastic time had by all. I think my other half enjoyed it, and she's out today for my eldest daughter's birthday. We just backed them up here. My wife was actually 32 years ago. Let me think, 33 years ago. Sorry, 33 years ago, my other half was in hospital on her birthday, about to give birth to my firstborn. So there you are. There you are. Anyway, people, good morning to you. How are we all? Hope you're all fit and well. Got a packed show for you today. We've got a pretty long film for you today from Develon, really getting under the hood of one of their wheel loaders, the DL320. It's about 9 minutes long, but it's worth it because I know you like a bit of depth from time to time. Ken Hatcher has just arrived. Morning, Ken. He has got the road. We've got Muggy. You know, the old-fashioned sense of muggy. I know there's kind of a bit of a move for muggy to be someone's a bit of a div. They're a bit muggy. You know, they're not particularly nice person. They're muggy, like they might mug you off or something. But muggy, where I come from, and we'll be talking about words and phrases a little bit later on. Muggy still means bit close, bit warm, like it could storm at any moment. That's what we've got right now. Anyway, enough of all that old stuff and nonsense. Should we crack on with the show? I think we probably should. So without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, which does relate to words and phrases, and get this show on the road. Like this. Now, two things before I go any further. Did I do the question of the day? I did. I'll come back to that in a second. Two things. I'm going to do this one from Dan, who is absolutely right. We've got muggy heat. That mugginess where rain is not far away. It's hard to describe, but that's exactly what it is. It's hot, it's sweaty, but you know any moment now the heavens may open. Thank you for that, Dan. Perfect clarification. Now, Peter, I saw Peter was talking yesterday about chess. I don't play, can't play, don't know the rules, never have played, never particularly wanted to learn. But Peter was out playing chess yesterday, but not any old chess. Oh, heaven forbid. Heaven forbid he would play old-fashioned chess. He was playing five-a-side chess. Apparently that's the thing. Something that's been a thing for a while, changing perceptions of people across the UK. It's a shortened game that encourages people to engage, a good mental health resource. Now, that was the bit that I picked up on. I can't remember if you put it in the WhatsApp group or over on LinkedIn, but I know you were talking about the benefits of chess for mental health. I'd never heard that before, but I do understand in some ways, and I know this is a bizarre analogy to draw, in some ways, chess is like fishing. I realise that's not strictly true, but when I go fishing, I am basically sat there looking at a float. My mind is empty. I'm not thinking about bills that need paying, articles that need writing, Donald Trump destroying the universe. I'm not thinking of any of that. I'm just thinking about that float. And I would imagine, given the strategic nature of chess, that would be exactly the same. You're basically focused entirely on the game. So yes, our friend Haribo Starmix says checkers on top, in my opinion. I've played checkers a few times, or drafts as we call it over here. Gary Muirhead has just arrived. He says, "Good morning, guys, and happy Friday, everyone." Thank you very much indeed, Gary, and thank you for yesterday. Much, much, much appreciated. And Dan says, "Wow, chess. Couldn't get into it. Love drafts. Yeah. I was always a little bit overwhelmed with chess. There seemed like too many rules to remember. Not big on that. Chess teaches you how to solve problems in real life. Does it? Those problems where you have to move diagonally. Don't know which chess piece that is. Is it a bishop? I may have just made that up because I don't know. But one of them can move diagonally, and it may be the bishop, maybe the queen. I don't know. In my personal opinion, the bishop should fall down. That's an in-joke for those of you that know their demolition. But anyway, let's crack on, shall we? Because it is Thursday. No, it's not. It's Friday. Friday, the 18th of July. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. And apparently, yes, it is the bishop that can move diagonally. See, I'm nowhere near as daft as I look, although that would be difficult. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. In today's show, we've got a triple dose of mining action. We're starting out in Indonesia with Volvo. We're heading to Australia with the fine folks at Thiess Mining. And we're going to be going underground with Caterpillar. And along the way, we will be stopping for an in-depth look at the latest Develon DL320-7 wheel loader. Plus, in my morning monologue today, where's our Elvis? I promise you that will make complete sense when we get there. I promise that will make sense. Haribo Starmix, what is the best mining machine in your opinion? Oh, I tell you what, I will throw that open. I will throw that open to the audience. I have many favourites: Cat D11, Libya T264, Komatsu PC 9000, and so it goes on. Any of those. But if anybody has got a favourite mining machine in the chat, please let me know, because our friend Haribo Starmix over on Instagram would like to know. Dan says, love Queen and King in drafts. Yes, well, you stack them up, right? And apparently Harry Potter went diagonally. Yeah, I vaguely remember that. Okay. Oh, well, I tell you what, let me remind you of the question of the day, and then I'll discuss Dan's contribution to it. Here we go. Yeah, our question of the day, as always, comes yet again from our resident quizmaster, Mr. Gary Muirhead. And his question is this: what words or phrases do you believe to be unique to you, your family, or your region? Obviously, Gary being a Scot, a canny Scot, no less, he says, obviously, those north of the border go for I rather than yes. Fully aware of that. As a proud Londoner, I've got loads, mainly things that I picked up from my dad, who, to be perfectly honest, barely spoke normal English at times, and there's far too many to list here. But he did have two phrases for when an object had gone wrong. So imagine the machine that you're on at the moment has gone wrong. There are two phrases that my father will bless you with. If a machine, a TV or an excavator, for example, developed a fault, he never said it had gone wrong. He said it had gone up the pictures. Gone up the pictures. Can't work the TV. It's gone up the pictures. Okay. And then if he had discovered that it was beyond repair, it was never broken or dead or unmendable. It had gone home. It had gone home. Those are the phrases, as I say, probably not unique to me, not unique to my dad, but those are ones that kick around this house quite a bit. Dan Cullen goes for utter gobshite. I use for morons or do-heads. What the hell is a do-head? I thought being Irish, I'd have thought you'd have had a good Egypt in there. We love a good Egypt. Were you born in is that a barn or a cow house? Shut the bloody door. To which I used to reply, I was born in a hospital with swinging doors. Well done. Yeah, were you? See, there's and I'm sure these are not unique to my family, but I do remember when I was growing up, my mum saying things like, "You treat this house like a hotel. Were you born in a barn?" Um, Oh, so many, so many. Kerry Jones, morning, Kerry. Good of you to join us. As much use as an ashtray on a motorbike. Yes, as much use as a chocolate fire guard, or as much use as a chocolate teapot, which is one I always preferred. Yeah, loads and loads of those. Haribo Starmix left and came back and then apologised for not being here. Not a problem. You come and go as you see fit. It's really not a problem. We are a broad church here and we're ever welcoming. Fair to middling. Kex. It's cracking the flags. I guess that's windy. Barm cake. What? Yeah, please. Barm cake. Explain. Elucidate. Please. I see this. There's a thing that I see online fairly regularly. Somebody puts up a picture of what I would refer to as a roll or a bread roll, and there are names for it up and down the country. I'm assuming that is what a barm cake is. I don't know. Or is that an insult because somebody can be a barm cake? But also crumpets. I like. I mean, I didn't have them this morning, but most mornings I do. I do absolutely love a crumpet. Apparently, they're only crumpets in my part of the world. Other parts of the country, pikelets. Never heard of that. What have you got, people? Jonathan Duras has just arrived, so the show can commence. So I'm glad to hear it. And cracking the flags means it's bloody hot. I didn't know that. I thought that was windy. Okay. Anyway, I have promised to start the show, and start the show I shall jolly well do, as we're 14 minutes in and having done absolutely nothing so far. So here we go. Let's have a look at this. Dan Cullen says, I love potato bread. Does that relate to barm cakes? A barm cake is so named because it was traditionally leavened with barm, a byproduct of beer brewing. Well, there you go. I didn't know that. Barm is the foam or the froth that forms on top of fermenting ale or lager. My apologies. That slice of toast is really not sat well. So that's why it's called a barm cake. So I mean, on that basis, does that mean it's a specific type of bread roll? There is a bread roll and there's a barm cake. Never the twain shall meet. I'm assuming that is the case. Anywho, I have promised you a whole bunch of mining stuff today, and we are going to start with Volvo, and we're going all the way to Indonesia for this. Sit back and enjoy.
Welcome. This is no country for ordinary women and men. Are you ready?
Let's go.
There's no easy job on the mining field. And it's time to show our skills, shall we?
I'm ready.
Activate Volvo Copilot. Hall Assist is activated. We can do this all day.
Yes, we can. Teamwork makes the best work. Thanks, Volvo.
Good progress, isn't it?
Thanks, Volvo.
Saya bangga sekali menjadi operator ADT karena ini adalah alat besar pertama yang ada di Palu. Saya tertarik melamar masuk proyek ini Karena saya yakin saya bisa untuk membawa unit sebesar ini, unit alat berat.
Saya sangat yakin sekali dengan adanya diversity workforce ini. 85% operator ADT di portfolio project merupakan perempuan. Saya adalah perempuan pertama yang menempati posisi sebagai HSKT Manager, di mana ini menjadi suatu kebanggaan untuk saya.
Tidak ada yang tidak mungkin, tidak boleh takut. Karena kita sebagai perempuan juga mampu untuk membawa alat berat.
This is no country for women and men. Only for pilots. And Volvo Co-Pilot.
So, 70% of their operators are women. Our friend Haribo Starmix has just said 70% is a lot. Probably the only country which has that high an amount of female miners. I would imagine so. Although I would imagine Japan and China probably give them a run for their money. Now, I'm saying, let me explain how this show began. I was running late. I was somebody at the door. I was chatting, and I realised I was running out of time. So I ran into this office, and I picked up the first hat that I grabbed. The first one that came to hand was this Caterpillar hat. We have just had a visit. I'm hoping he's still here, from Mark Blondeel from Cuxhaven in Germany, who is a Komatsu man. Morning, Mark. Morning, Mark. There you are. Quick change to cheer the audience. Good to see you here, Mark. Fantastic. Glad you could join us. What have we got? Loads of stuff here. Great video, says Dan. Thank you very much indeed. That translation is way off. She was explaining how shit they are compared to bell dumpers. I'm fairly sure Volvo would have checked. And I listen, I like a bell truck as much as the next guy, but I will take exception to that. If I were choosing an ADT, which I'm not, but if I were choosing an ADT, personally, top three, and I would struggle to choose between them, it would be the Volvo, the Cat, and the Komatsu. Then Bell. Just me. And sorry, Bell, if that means you'll never advertise with me, that's just the way it'll have to be. But thank you very much indeed for all your comments on that. And apparently, a bread roll is a hot dog roll. Iced fingers. What's going on with iced fingers? That is just basically a hot dog roll with some icing on it, right? Am I missing a point there? I think I'm right on that. Anyway, we've got loads to get through yet. We've got our longest film of the day today, coming up immediately after this, nearly 10 minutes long. Really gets under the hood of a brand new Develon wheel loader. So stick around. I'll be back after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Peter says, I love ice fingers. Yeah, my son Fred loves ice fingers. But the problem with them is it's only the icing that's good, right? The rest of it is just some bread. Why would you put icing on bread? I genuinely, and once the icing is gone, you're just left with a really, really dull bread roll. Am I not right? Andy Thornton, morning, Mark. Sorry I'm late. Not a problem at all. Go stand in the corner and write out 500 times. I will always be on time from this day hence. Or you can just be forgiven. Let's go with that one instead. And apparently Peter dips in his coffee. See, there's another thing I don't get. Americans dipping donuts into coffee. I like coffee. I like donuts. I like coffee and donuts together, but not that together, if you see what I mean. Haribo Starmix says, don't have the money to donate. I would love to, though. My friend Haribo Starmix, not a problem. It is purely a voluntary thing, just to keep the wheels turning. I will get to the film in just a moment. I do want to give a shout out very quickly to my mate Matt Malloy. I used to work with Matt. In fact, Matt and I actually started the Diggers and Dozers channel together many moons ago, and we parted company, all perfectly amicable. He went in his direction, I went in mine, but we've always remained friends. And I had about an hour and a half on the phone with Matt last night talking about, basically rebuilding the Demolition News website and various other bits and pieces, and about video content. And I tell you what, I barely slept last night for all the right reasons. Matt has left me inspired. So Matt, if you're watching today, thank you very much indeed for last night. Really appreciated it. Dan says I dip anything into tea and coffee and tea. Yeah, I don't. I tea. Okay, so let's cut to the chase. The most important part of the show. Develon can wait. The most important part of the show. If I have a cup of tea, rich tea biscuits dunked for just about the right amount of time, perfectly acceptable. If I'm having a cup of coffee, ginger nut biscuits dipped again for the right amount of time. Nothing else is acceptable. Probably. Love a person that gives me a good inspiration. It's do you know, it's a really strange thing. The relationship I have with Matt, and I will get to the Develon in just a moment. Matt called me out of the blue many years ago. He'd worked with the BBC and various other organizations, and he basically said, you know, if you could do video, what would you do? And I said, I'd love for diggers and dozers to be the top gear of the construction equipment world. And that's basically how Diggers and Dozers was born. That's why there's a Diggers and Dozers channel going back, I don't know, 12, 13 years or whatever it might be. My belief is that I then kind of we went our separate ways, but I feel like I went into a bit of a lead with embracing online publishing and live streaming and that kind of thing. And Matt, I wouldn't say he was left behind, but he was doing his own thing. But speaking to him last night, and some of the stuff that he's doing in the refurb and retrofit arena, he's way advanced of what I was doing, even to the point where we had an hour and a half on Microsoft Teams. And he said, "Are you okay for me to record this?" I said, "Yeah, save me having to take notes." So he recorded it. He then sent me, within about 20 minutes, a detailed, not just a transcript, but he flushed it through an AI system that had given me not just a transcript, but action points as well. You will do this, you'll do that, you'll do this, you'll do that. Astonishing. So thank you for that, Matt. Jonathan Duras, going back to barm cake, we call them cobs up our way. Yeah, cobs. Are you... Jonathan, whereabouts are you? I'm fairly sure I've heard cobs around Leicester, Midlands-ish. I know Leicester isn't strictly Midlands, but yeah. Dan Cullen, you're as useful as two less feet to the guys who bum themselves up and show they know nothing. I did see a big bunch of nicknames for workers. I promise I will bring you Develon in just a moment. Nickname for workers. Wheelbarrow, someone that only works when pushed. Sensor light only works when somebody approaches. And yeah, loads of those. Anyway, I've kept you waiting long enough. Sit back. You've got 10 minutes to enjoy this. This is from Develon. This is their new DL320-7. Develon, take it away.
Hello, I'm Bill Zach, Product Manager for Develon Wheel Loaders in North America. Develon Wheel Loaders have been in production for over 45 years, leading up to our current Dash 7 series. Our Dash 7 series is a culmination of many years of technological advancements through engineering and testing, and represents a significant advancement in construction equipment, combining innovative technologies with robust engineering to deliver exceptional performance, safety, and efficiency. This overview will explore the key features and benefits of the Develon wheel loader, focusing on visibility, productivity, fuel consumption, serviceability, and the integration of advanced technologies such as a transparent bucket and a round view camera system. The Develon Dash 7 series wheel loaders have 10 different models within its lineup, with many variations within each model, ranging from 142.1 horsepower up through 394.3 horsepower, and operating weights of up to approximately 79,000 pounds. We also offer standard arm and high lift packages to meet the varying needs in the market. With an available range of models and options, our wheel loaders find themselves at home in a wide range of applications, some of which are mining, construction, infrastructure and road building, agriculture, forestry, and snow removal, just to name a few. Featured behind me is our DL320-7 wheel loader. The DL320-7 has a Develon DL08 six-cylinder engine boasting 270.9 horsepower. This loader can travel at speeds up to 22.4 mile an hour when equipped with a 4-speed transmission and up to 24.9 when equipped with a 5-speed transmission. Let's talk transmissions for a moment. Develon wheel loaders DL320-7 through 580-7 feature 3 selectable modes on a standard ZF transmission: manual, automatic 1 or A1, automatic 2 or A2, and in the manual mode, the transmission is a semi-automatic transmission. Gears are selected by twisting the transmission shift lever between 1 through 4. In the A1 mode, with the transmission shift lever set to 4, the transmission will shift automatically 1 through 4, unless equipped the optional 5-speed transmission, then 1 through 5 based on workloads. The transmission adapts to various operating conditions, ensuring that the machine operates at optimal engine speeds and loads, further enhancing fuel efficiency. We have one model, the DL200-7, that has a hydrostatic transmission, making it the perfect solution where high or low RPM can be controlled independently of ground speed, making it a perfect fit for operations requiring full RPM or power with low ground speed. When it comes to conserving fuel, the goal is to minimize unnecessary fuel consumption. Develon wheel loaders are equipped with auto idle and auto shutdown features. The auto idle function reduces engine RPM when the steering wheel or joystick are not being used, while the auto shutdown feature turns off the engine after a set amount of idle time. This features help conserve fuel during periods of inactivity. Develon's Situational Awareness Technology, or SAT, standard on the 320-7 and above is a key component in optimizing fuel efficiency. SAT automatically adjusts engine output in real time to match the demands of the drivetrain and hydraulics, ensuring that fuel is used efficiently. This dynamic adjustment reduces fuel consumption without compromising performance, leading to cost savings and a reduced environmental footprint. The DL280-7 and below take advantage of a standard mode in place of SAT, reducing engine RPM to conserve fuel. But there's more to Develon wheel loaders than just fuel efficiency. Develon is known for innovation and safety. One of the standout features of the Develon wheel loader is our exclusive transparent bucket technology. We lead the industry enhancing safer operations, and we offer this feature standard on all Dash 7 wheel loaders. This system utilizes 2 strategically placed cameras, one mounted high in the cab and the other low on the axle, providing operators with a clear view of the area in front of the bucket. The images from these cameras are stitched together through a video processor and displayed on an in-cab monitor, effectively making the bucket appear transparent. This innovation allows operators to see obstacles, terrain, variations, and personnel that would otherwise be obstructed by the bucket, significantly enhancing safety and operational efficiency. Complementing the transparent bucket as an important job safety feature, all Develon wheel loaders are equipped with a standard rear view camera. Additionally, Develon wheel loaders can be equipped with an optional around view monitoring system, or AVM. The AVM system integrates 3 cameras and several ultrasonic sensors to provide operators with up to 270 degrees visibility around the machine, in either a top-down view or an around view format. Ultrasonic proximity sensors will give warnings of obstacles behind the machine based on proximity. The AVM system displays real-time images on the in-cab monitor, alerting operators to potential obstacles through visual indicators such as a flashing caution box. One of the great things about our wheel loaders is the commonality between models. Whether you're running the smallest wheel loader or our largest wheel loader, all the cabs are set up the same. When the Dash 7 series was introduced, we increased the cab glass surface area by 14% over the Dash 5 series, giving the operators a greater view from the seat of the cab. All the Develon wheel loaders are equipped with an 8-inch smart touch display, air suspension seat, heat and air conditioning, and a Bluetooth stereo system. Even if you are a new operator, there's an in-cab tutorial available that will explain each switch through the touchscreen monitor. Moving on, specifics regarding lifting capacities and more vary greatly depending on several factors, such as what you are lifting, what size limitations do you have for the job site, what's your dump height requirements, what is the material density, and more. While this machine is equipped with a 4.5 yard bucket, There are a wide variety of Develon wheel loader attachments available. Aggregate bucket, general purpose bucket, grapple bucket, light material bucket, pallet forks, and rock bucket. Develon wheel loaders can be equipped with an optional load weighing system from the factory, which accurately measures the weight of the material in the bucket. This system ensures precise loading, reducing the risk of overloading or underloading. By having accurate load measurements, this contributes to improved productivity and reduced waste and helps ensure trucks are not overloaded, avoiding fines and road safety issues. The system can also be set up to track company name, truck number or name, material type, and weight. All this information can then be downloaded to an Excel file. To further enhance productivity, a load isolation system, or LIS, sometimes called ride control, is standard on all Dash 7 wheel loaders. LIS improves vehicle stability and ride during operations, particularly when transporting heavy loads or operating on uneven terrain. LIS allows operators to work more efficiently and safely, even in challenging conditions, which in turn leads to less fatigue to the operator and machine. In the end, this leads to improved productivity. As for serviceability, Develon wheel loaders are designed with serviceability in mind, with features such as centralized lubrication points, allowing for easier maintenance and reduced downtime. Convenient access to key components and fluid level checks simplifies routine maintenance tasks, ensuring that the machine remains in optimal working condition. Every Develon wheel loader comes standard with My Develon, Develon's proprietary telematics system that enables operators, fleet managers, equipment owners, and servicing dealers to remotely monitor Develon's equipment, performance, and health at no additional cost. Finally, all Develon wheel loaders feature a best-in-class warranty that comes standard with a 36-month, 5,000-hour full machine bumper-to-bumper coverage. The Develon wheel loader offers a compelling value proposition for construction professionals seeking a machine that combines advanced technology, enhanced safety, robust performance, and fuel efficiency. To learn more about the Develon DL320-7 and the full Develon product offering, please visit our website for the latest offerings, expanded product portfolio, and news related to Develon at na.develon-ce.com or visit one of our more than 200 dealer locations throughout the US and Canada to experience what Develon can do for your job site.
Very thorough. I'll come back to that in just a moment. I'm going to go back to our friend over on Instagram. Haribo Starmix 244 says, here in the Netherlands, we have stroop waffles. Those are just amazing. Dipping them in tea makes them better. I agree. I love me a stroop waffle. The ones in Starbucks, not so great, but the ones in the white bag, can't remember who makes them, but the ones in the white bag, if anyone's ever had a stroop waffle, you'll know exactly what I mean. Right, loads to get through over in the chat. So Dan Cullen enjoying the colour of the Develon. Peter McKenna says, Ainsco Crane Hire won Company Innovation of the Year Award at Construction News Awards 2025. Was that last night? Don't get invited these days. Jonathan Duras, going back to his reference to a roll or a barm cake as a cob. He's in Wolverhampton, me babby. Yes, he's in the Black Country. Good day to you, Jonathan. Thank you very much indeed for clarifying. I know exactly where you are now. Dan Cullen says, now there's a question. How many brands of loaders are there? It's mad the amount of loading shovels. And then Dan Cullen comes back, or correct, no, Peter says, Dan, there's 70 to 80. I wouldn't have put it that high, but I wouldn't be at all surprised. Everybody's got a wheel loader, and there are companies that sort of lurk in the background that only do wheel loaders, particularly those little compact ones that you get in mainland Europe, like Tobrocco Giant over in the Netherlands, where they do stroop waffles. See how this just flows together? Man alive, I'm good at this. Let's have a look. Peter says, bloody good loader with an amazing backup service. Good to hear. Dan Cullen questioning the lack of continuous variable transmission or vario transmission. Farm tractors use that vario and it's a top-notch transmission. I'm sure there's a perfectly good reason for it. Now, I'll come to Steve Williamson, who has just joined us, and I'll come to Chris Ford in a moment. Dan Cullen says, optional camera, why? Peter says cameras are okay, but they get dirty. Should have a washing system on them like vehicles. I agree. But then this is the question that triggered me. I wonder how much that will be extra. I've got a bit of an issue here, and this is not purely Develon. This is manufacturers in general. They will give you within the cost of a machine. They'll give you your cup holder, and they'll give you your Bluetooth connectivity, and they'll give you the nice comfy seat, and your seat belt, and the air conditioning, and the DAB digital radio. They'll give you all these nice to have things. But safety features as an optional extra? Is that right? I mean, I can see why they're doing it, but it doesn't sit well with me, that. And our friend Haribo Starmix has given up the ghost on Instagram, and he's now watching over on YouTube, which is where Chris Ford is watching from. Morning, Chris. All these cameras are a distraction. Are you watching the cameras, or are you watching what you're doing? Morning, all. It's a good point. Dan Cullen enjoyed the video. He says another video, good description of the machine. Man knows his stuff. He certainly does. What do we got here? Steve Williamson. Now, on the subject of Steve Williamson, I make no secret of the fact that I'm a big fan of Steve. He put out a video yesterday. I don't know if you follow him on Instagram or TikTok. I don't know if he's on TikTok these days, YouTube, but certainly I spotted it on LinkedIn. He's put out a video of his trip up to Eskilstuna with Volvo. Oh, it's a good video. Oh, I mean, as I say, I'm a fully paid up member of the Steve Williamson fan club. I had one of his T-shirts on yesterday. I don't know if anybody noticed, but I am a big fan. But it's like Steve was always at that level. He's at that level now. Absolutely top work, my friend. Well done indeed. Hang on a minute. Question of the day. Fit like Ide Loon. Pardon my French, but what the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? I have no idea. And there we are. There's our friend Haribo Starmix over on YouTube. Good of you to be here. Let's have a look. The DVLA has now renewed my LGV license after 12 months of medical examinations, but now I'm an OAP. It's only for a year, Peter. Wow. 80 makers of loading shovels, and that's just the Chinese, says Chris Ford. In the West Midlands, they do battered chips, according to Peter. I've heard this before. Was it Jim was saying that? Battered chips are a bit sticky, but I do like them. Anybody else now fancying battered chips? Peter says, I've not had an HGV license for 3 years now. Steve Williamson says, I impressed myself with that one. Just need to bite the bullet for the upgrade. Based on what you're doing so far, based on what you're doing, I'm not entirely sure that the upgrade is necessary. I understand the desire, precisely what I was talking to my mate Matt about last night. But Steve, listen, from the heart of my bottom, brilliant video. Well done, mate. Dan says, you think this would be standard 360-degree view? That was a great video. Steve, is Volvo seatbelts like cards now? I don't know. Fit like Idaloon. Idaloon? I don't know. But apparently it means, how are you today, boy? Would that not be easier? Anywho, people, loads still to get through. What have we got next? Oh, yeah, we're going underground with Caterpillar in a minute. Back after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Right. Okay. To clarify, it was where are we? It wasn't cars seatbelts. It was car seatbelts, I think. Yes, cars. He was saying fat-fingered Irishman. Well, listen, we all fall for that. Steve clarifies, yeah, all the new Volvo machines have the new style seatbelt. Good to hear. Chris Ford, A up me duck. Jim will know that one. Yes, I've heard that one before. I do remember the first time somebody called me duck up in that part of the world, and it was a bloke that said it to me. Felt weird. Kind of nice, but felt weird. Dan, question of the day. What? There'd be toe bangs, me hitting you. There'd be two bangs, me hitting you and you hitting the floor. I've heard that one before. Put your bike in Ginnell. I've really opened a bit of a can of worms here. That's long overdue. As hate the waist seatbelt, says Dan. There we are. Anyway, we're listen, after no, let me do it from the beginning. This time next week, I will be bringing you my last show for 2 weeks before jetting off on my hollybobs. Of course, after yesterday's gut bash with my wife for her birthday, I'm sat here feeling very, very bloated and far from beach ready. It kind of left me wondering, if only you could swap bodies. Well, with Caterpillar, you actually can.
To get more value from your Cat Underground truck, you need a truck body that has been designed and built for your specific truck and application. Fortunately, Caterpillar has you covered. Cat truck bodies are designed to be an integral part of the complete loading and hauling system, ensuring every part works together efficiently and reliably. That's why they're able to deliver optimal payloads for Cat Underground trucks without compromising vehicle balance, braking, or control. They're also made to stand up to the harsh conditions of an underground mine. And when combined with the truck payload management system and payload scoreboards, Cat truck bodies can help you achieve your target payloads in specific applications. We also design and build Cat truck bodies for longer machine life and even multiple lifetimes through cost-effective and sustainable Cat rebuilds. For extreme conditions, Caterpillar also offers flexible liners and plates to further extend the life of your bodies, help drive down maintenance time, and reduce costs. Together with our global Cat dealer network, Caterpillar delivers unparalleled boots-on-the-ground support, regardless of location, anywhere in the world, ensuring you achieve more value from your Cat Underground trucks.
Yes, if I could swap out my body for, I don't know, Brad Pitt, that would be quite nice. Going back to the chat, we've got this from Steve. Looking forward to seeing the Cat finals again at ConExpo. Yeah, soon be here. Peter McKenna saying, put the wood in the hole. Yeah, my mum used to say that. Not int, because she's a southerner. Haribo Starmix is trying to keep me guessing because apparently he's back on Instagram because there's too much of a lag over on YouTube. Nigel Williams was telling me that he was on a Craic scraper the other day on a Volvo ADT. I wasn't aware of that. What I would say about Nigel, and I hope he's listening to this. Has anyone seen Nigel recently? Man alive, he's looking good. And I don't mean that in a, get him kind of fashion. He's lost a lot of weight. He's looking as fit as a flea. Nigel Williams, whatever it is you're doing, your porridge with your bananas and your blueberries or getting down the gym, you are looking damn fine, my friend. And I mean that in a strictly heterosexual sense. Were you born in a barn? Yeah, I had that one as well. Dan, the earth moving has been put back another week on this job. Because, the weather would be a problem, wouldn't it? Dear Lord. Nigel goes to the gym at 3 a.m. at the moment. Okay, well, that's going too far, isn't it? Jonathan Dura saying, great video. Thank you. Well, I say thank you. Nothing to do with me. It was a Caterpillar video. Isn't this? Doesn't this sum up the construction industry? 4 weeks the start's been delayed, but the finish date stays exactly the same. These developers are nuts. Yes. You can start on the 1st of June. We want you finished by the 1st of July. Okay. But you can start on the 25th of June, but you still finish the 1st. Oh, seriously, people. Stop being Mardy. Now, Mardy, that's one that doesn't translate. We don't get Mardy down here. We get the UMP, the UMP. We get pissed off, but we don't get Mardy. Mardy is further north, I think. Don't know where it comes from, what it means, but that's what it is. Right, okay, we've got one more film for you before I start to talk about Elvis Presley. I promise you it will make sense, but we'll do the Thiess Mining thing first, after this. See, Andy Thornton was clearly properly raised by his parents, because his father not put the wood in hole. His father said, rules are for the guidance of wise men and the observation of fools. See, bringing a bit of culture. Andy, thank you very much indeed for that. Peter says, ours was don't be a Mardy arse. Dan, we go nuts or lose your rag. What does that even mean? Well, listen, we used to do that. Oh, he's lost his rag. I don't know where it comes from. Steve, where are you going on holiday, Mark? Well, therein lies a question. We're actually on a cruise. So the absolute truth is we're flying to Rome, then taking the train down to a port town called Civitavecchia, where we board a Princess cruise ship, which takes us to Naples, to Sicily, to Marseille, to Gibraltar, and we end up in Barcelona. I can't actually, that's not all the stops. I think we make 6 or 7 stops over the period of about 10 days. So that's not all of them, but that's so where are we going? Lots of places is the answer to that. Question of the day, no mither. Is that the same as no worries? No mither? I'm guessing at that. I honestly don't know. Right, one final film. It's sticking with the mining theme. It's from Thiess Mining. It's from Down Under. It looks like this.
Human progress is something remarkable. It is fueled by passion and imagination, driven by doers and dreamers. Throughout history, this has been our winning formula to overcome any challenge. Today, the world faces a new challenge, one that will determine how we live and prosper on this planet. This moment demands leaders to step up and get to work, to dream big so we can achieve even more, because nothing less will do. At Thiess, we know a thing or two about forging a new trail. From our founders and over the past 90 years, our pioneering spirit has always driven us forward. Through every obstacle and any setback. Always committed to deliver on our promise to our people, our communities, and our clients. Today, the world needs Thiess at our best. We have the talent, the vision, and the determination to dare to be pioneers again and to drive the sustainable change the world needs. Thiess, pioneering spirit for a brighter tomorrow.
Steve says, a cruise. Have you not seen Poop Cruise on Netflix? I haven't. Just to be very, very clear on that, we've done probably 5 or 6 cruises over recent years. Cruises did become a bit of a no-go zone because of COVID. I know there were people trapped on cruise ships because they'd been hit by COVID and couldn't land because of the fear of bringing the infection on board. We've been waiting. We've actually been waiting to get back on a cruise ship. I listen. I understand where that show is coming from, and it's not for everyone. And Steve, I am quite a bit older than you, so maybe that's part of it. But I've got to be honest. That notion of you. The ones we normally do usually leave out of Southampton. So you hand them your luggage, you get on board, and when you get to your cabin, your luggage is already there, and you set so. But basically, you wake up the following day somewhere else. Somebody's taking care of all of the driving and the travel and everything else. So you get up. Oh, look out the window. It's Marseille. Should we go and have a stroll around? Let's have a stroll around. We go back, have dinner, go to bed, wake up the following day. Oh, look, we're in Barcelona. It's a fantastic way to travel. Dan says, whatever you do, don't stay over, stay at stop-offs. I've seen a few videos of people left behind. I don't suppose for one moment he is watching, but back in the day, it's a guy called Patrick Williamson. Smashing fella, absolutely smashing fella. He was the convention chairman for the National Federation of Demolition Contractors. So the NFDC have their conventions overseas 99 times out of 100, and they've been to Barcelona and Mallorca and Madeira and various other places. We went on one, and I wish I could remember which one it was, but we took a boat trip round to a neighbouring bay where lunch had been laid on. Fine time had by all. And Pat Williamson is, as I say, really hardworking. He makes sure everybody's all hunky dory. He's the first awake in the morning, last to go to bed at night. Really looks after the guests. And he saw us, made sure everyone was getting back on the boat after a heavy lunch, and we've all had a few glasses of wine. And he's counted us on and everything else. And the boat set sail, and we all turned around to see Pat still stood on the dock. The guy that was running the trip was left behind. Yes, not his own fault, I don't think. I think it was the captain being a bit hasty, but there you are. Dan says, wow, old Ford Cargo, remember those on roads? Now not seen one in years. Chris Falls, yes, you were right with your guess, so no mither is, no worries. Chris Ford was once working on a slip road. A Ford Cargo hit its brakes at the bottom of the ramp and the cab tipped forward. You don't need that, do you? You don't need that. I've seen plenty of those ones where, HGVs where the guys hung on the anchors and the load has come along and taken the cab off, man and all. Awful business. Now, I will remind you very quickly, we're on the countdown now. I'm here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week. So that's our final 5 shows before a 2-week break. So if you are around, please try and tune in because, I'd like the company. But then you've got a 2-week break to go and do something far more useful. So that's about it for the main part of this morning show. That's it for the week as well. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll be back in just a moment after. If you look down the musical hit parade for 1955, it was comprised of bland, middle-of-the-road singers like Perry Como, Bing Crosby, Pat Boone and Doris Day. But then 1956 arrived, and with it a young man by the name of Elvis Presley. Within the space of just a few short months, he became a phenomenon. During the year he burst onto the music scene, he had 6 of the best-selling songs of the year, including Heartbreak Hotel, Don't Be Cruel and Hound Dog. Rock and roll had arrived, and one man had turned the world of music and entertainment on its head. Thanks to Elvis, the world was all shook up. In a very different yet very similar way, history repeated in the UK in 1976. The music charts yet again were bland, with prog rock bands like Yes and Genesis pumping out concept albums containing songs that lasted for an hour. I mean, they probably weren't that long, but they certainly felt like it. Suddenly, like Elvis had done 20 years before, the Clash, the Damned, and the Sex Pistols arrived to shake up the music scene once again. You might argue that the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, and the first round of hip-hop artists did a very similar thing. Now, such revolutions are not confined to music. Think about the switch from radio to TV, the switch from black and white TV to colour, the arrival of the personal computer, the dawning of the internet age, mobile phones, smartphones, tablet computers, factories switching from manual to robotic labour. We saw the fall of the Berlin Wall and the dissolution of the Soviet Union. As a nation, we've largely surrendered fossil fuels, we've cast ourselves adrift from our European neighbours, and we've seen same-sex marriages move into the mainstream. In each instance, these things marked a paradigm shift, a new direction for humanity, society, business, and individual people. So where is our paradigm shift in the demolition and construction industry? Where's our shake-up? Where's our Elvis? Now, you might argue that the arrival of machines like the JCB Mark I and the dawning of the age of mechanisation marked a major shake-up. But that JCB machine landed at roughly the same time as Elvis first swiveled his hips. Since then? Oh, sure, there have been variations on a theme. We've seen excavators, wheel loaders, dozers, graders, and skid steer loaders pitch up. And we've seen all of these develop over the years. But that's evolution. Surely we're long overdue a revolution. And it's not as if we haven't had opportunities. We had the partial collapse of the Ronan Point Tower Block in Canning Town in London back in 1968. We had the partial collapse of the Didcot A Power Station boiler house in 2016. We had the Grenfell Tower disaster in 2017. It's 31 years since the Latham Report, 27 years since the Egan Report, and 15 years since the publication of the Wolstenholme Report. And it's now more than 5 years since the UK construction sector was granted key worker status when the COVID pandemic took hold. Any and all of these had the potential to bring about the paradigm shift, that industry shake-up. But did they? Have you noticed a marked change or improvement in processes, procedures, working practices, or working conditions? Since Elvis checked in at the Heartbreak Hotel, we've had 18 UK Prime Ministers. We've seen governments, cabinets, and ministers come and go. We've seen quangos created, campaigns unveiled. There's been training, health and safety initiatives. There's been crackdowns on variously working at height, slips, trips, falls, asbestos, silica dust, contaminated wood, and a whole plethora of other risks and hazards. But while the annual fatality stats have fallen gradually over years, we do that a bit again. But while the annual fatality stats have fallen gradually over the years, they seem to have bottomed out. In fact, since the global pandemic, they've actually spiked again. Now, obviously, we are on the cusp of a significant shift, equipment-wise at least. The days of diesel are fast drawing to a close, and those of us that will be around when that switch happens will be required to make a leap into an electric or hydrogen unknown. But not really, because while the fuel used to power that equipment might be new, the equipment itself is pretty much the same as we have today, only with fewer moving parts and a bit less black smoke. In real terms, it's not a shift at all. Diggers will still dig, dozers will still doze, and haulers will still haul. This is less vive la revolution and more vive l'evolution. More than 70 years after the arrival of the first backhoe loader, 57 years after Ronan Point, 31 years after the Latham Report, and almost 10 years after Didcot, nothing much has really changed. Surely we're due a shake-up. So where's our Elvis? There you are. Now, before I get into all of that, if anybody can think of another journalist in this or any other industry that can use Elvis Presley as a construction analogy, please feel free to name them. They wouldn't dare. They wouldn't dare. Nobody has it in them. Good morning, everyone. We are staying in the Elvis Hotel in Vegas. Now, which one? Which one? Now, I don't know if you'll be able to see. Let me get Steve off the... you may be able to see there is a tattoo on my arm there, which is... It's Elvis related. It's what he had on his karate kit, and it says TCB and there's a lightning flash, which is taking care of business in a flash. His wife, Priscilla, still with us. Not with us. Still with us? Can't remember. Is she still here? Was it Lisa Marie that died? His daughter? I can't remember. Anyway, but yes, Priscilla Presley had a karate kit made for Elvis, and it had this. So as you can probably gather, I'm quite the Elvis fan. First time I ever went to Las Vegas, I made a pilgrimage. Seriously, a pilgrimage to the Hilton Hotel, which was one of his hangouts. And there is actually a statue outside the Hilton Hotel in Las Vegas of Elvis, full on, karate pose and everything else. So I made a pilgrimage there. But he did stay and did perform in quite a few of the hotels in Las Vegas. So, Steve, which one are you talking about? Chris Ford says, what date do you get back? I think I'm actually back in circulation on about the 12th of August, something like that. I think it's about the 12th of August. I will clarify. Dan says, took 3.25 hours to get, or 3 hours, 15 minutes to get home last night. Did you walk? Did you walk? The Westgate, it used to be the International Hotel. Yeah, Westgate, right the way down the bottom of the strip, down Circus End. Westgate, I think Barry Manilow was performing there last time I was there. I didn't go to see him. My mum would be very embarrassed. But yes, Westgate. I tell you what, wouldn't be my first choice of hotel because it's been there a while and everything else. But in terms of location, it is the best hotel for doing ConExpo, because you can literally walk out your front door and walk into the show. It's Steve, I know I'm preaching to the choir here. Westgate is literally, if you're stood in the outdoor area, I can't remember which lot it is, but if you're stood in the outside area, Westgate's there. You're actually looking at it. Don't forget, this Cromford Steam Fair is the 2nd or 3rd of August. Got to get a plug-in. Not a problem at all, Chris. Unfortunately, I will be somewhere by then. I don't know exactly where I will be at that point. 2nd or 3rd of August, probably France. I think France. We go Italy, France, and then Spain, I think. So I think I'll probably be in France around about that time. Maybe still Italy. Don't know. So yes, going back to Peter says, if you look back in time, what's really changed for the past 200 years, apart from technology and health and safety? Technology is an interesting one because, bearing in mind, I'm in a box room here talking to the world. There are viewers dotted around the world. I am talking to the world because of the advent of technology. I've got one of those usually resigned in my pocket and all the things. And, we've got things on board construction equipment. We were talking cameras earlier on, reversing cameras and object detection and all of those sort of things. But take a wheel loader, for example. A wheel loader of today, yes, I'll tell you what, strip out all of the technology, all of the electronics. How much different is it from a wheel loader of the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, or even the 60s? The loader linkage, the transmission, pretty much everything is unchanged. Now, it might be that the people that developed the very first or the very early wheel loaders hit pay dirt. They perfected the art back in 1967. I'm making that up, but 1967. And all they've done since then is just add bits and pieces, bits of technology, bits of electronics and that kind of thing. Maybe that's the case. But really, did they? Did they perfect excavators, wheel loaders, skid steers, mini excavators, dozers, graders? Did they get all of that right? So we're now at a, we actually reached peak plant in the 70s. And we, aside from adding some electronics, we didn't need to change them at all. Goes back, in some ways goes back to what I was talking about yesterday, this idea of we've got our regulations, and here's a new regulation, and here's another new regulation. And rather than going back and saying, let's take those away and put them all in one, we don't. We heap them upon one another. Think about that from a technology point of view. Yes, we've made some huge advances in technology, particularly relating to the plant and construction equipment industry. But have the machines themselves actually changed? Another thought here is you go back to the 60s, 70s, 80s, even the 90s. By and large, a half reasonable operator or fitter with a spanner and a sledgehammer could fix pretty much anything. That's not actually possible now, is it? When you think about you think about the modern machines, we were talking about cameras. If your camera goes wrong, goes awry, or you have a problem with it, you're not fixing that yourself. You're not an electrician. You're not an electronics expert. You're not an audio or visual expert. You're basically calling out a dealer. Is that an advance or is that a step backwards? Let's have a look. Steve says, "I'm going for 2 weeks. It's perfect for the showground. Then the second week, we're still looking. Maybe the MGM Grand wouldn't be my first choice. Wouldn't be my first choice. The MGM Grand is too big, too damn big. That would be my opinion. Listen, it's nice enough. The rooms are fine. Loads of things to do. Loads of places to stay. Loads of things to eat. You can go and do your top golf in the same place and everything else. But it's enormous to the point where I'm genuinely. I think I would get back to my room or get back to the hotel after a day out and think, "Oh Jesus, I'm still 15 minutes away from my hotel bedroom." It's big, very, very big. Dan says he may try to get to Cromford. There was a lorry accident on the M25. I think those two things are unconnected. Notice there's no services between junction 10 or 10 to 20. It's nuts. Now, we do have a lady in our midst, which is Dr. Yvonne Waterman. I'll come to Yvonne in a moment. So please forgive me for going off in a slightly unpleasant fashion. I am of an age now where services have become very, very important to me. I've only ever done this once, but drove past. Now, I can never remember. I think it may be Toddington, the last services on the M1. And I come down the M1 and then sling a right and go around the M25 to get home. And I was pulling towards Toddington or whatever the last one is before the M25 turn off and thought, do I need a pee? Nah, I'll be fine. I'm only half an hour, 40 minutes from home. And literally, as I saw that service area in my rearview mirror, I thought, oh, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. Drove the rest of the way home, legs crossed. So, yes, service areas, very important. And Peter McKenna will pick up on service areas because I know that's a bit of a bugbear with him as well. Peter says people are still left to their own devices. Mental health is as prolific as it's ever been. The rich and the poor divide is still the same. Yeah, absolutely. And again, there have been some societal changes that I do think are welcome. The dissolution of Soviet Union, although frankly, looking at Vladimir Putin these days, I'm not entirely sure how far we've moved forward. The fall of the Berlin Wall, same-sex marriage, all of those sort of things, all great, great advents and everything else. But like you say, the rich and the poor divide is still exactly the same. Mental health, yeah, I do question it. Now, speaking of Dr. Yvonne Waterman, big change needs vision. Who do you consider to be a visionary in the demolition sector? Should have read that to myself before I got to this point because there's not many. There's not many. Stefano Panseri would be one. Terry Quarmby would be another. John Woodward, Adrian McLean, and then I'm starting to struggle. And when you think that Terry Quarmby is almost retired, John Woodward is retired. So really and truly, the people that are likely to drive any kind of fundamental change are Adrian McLean, current president of the Institute of Demolition Engineers, and Stefano Panseri, who has just ceased being the European Demolition Association president. I also wonder with that, that does throw up another question. how do you change an industry? Now, I may have treated the industry unfairly there. There may be genuinely visionary people working within individual companies who are in a very sort of narrow field, in their own company, in their own market, are really doing things in a very, very forward-thinking way. They may be doing that. But changing an industry, the whole sector, requires not just vision, it requires leadership. And personally, I would suggest that leadership probably comes from something like a trade body, a trade association, an institute. So unless somebody like an Adrian McLean is given sort of free rein to turn the industry on its head, even with all the vision and the ambition that he has, is he going to make an impact? Will he be allowed to? By the time anything that he suggests has gone through committee meetings and working parties, will it be as visionary when it comes out the other end, or will it be watered down? They never changed or updated RAMs or safety. They just add on to the already old RAMs. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Yvonne says, also, hi, good morning. Nothing has ever been fixed. They just use a sticking plaster on everything and carry on. Yeah, that's again, I know we tend to talk mainly about equipment here. That's kind of what we've done here, isn't it? When you think back to, the Mark I backhoe loader, 1952, I think it's 1952. So what is that? 73 years ago? 73 years ago. And yes, the machine, the backhoe loader of today looks more sleek, it's cleaner running, it's quieter running, it's a bit more versatile and everything else. But by and large, bucket one end, excavator on the other end, cab in the middle. Yes, the cab's more comfortable. Yes, the engine is quieter and cleaner running. But the actual design, if you were to draw the outline of a Mark I and a 2025 3CX, pretty much the same thing. I'm not even going to try and pronounce this, but there's somebody over on Instagram, YUUTTXV. You're right. Thank you. And good morning to you, or good afternoon, depending where you are. Andy Thornton, be careful what you wish for. Robot lawnmowers, driverless cars. What next? Funnily enough, when I was in Italy, when we were at the Lamborghini factory, and I'm not name dropping, this is a genuine case. Lamborghini factory, big factory building, and out the front, they've got sort of landscaped grass. And there was one of those robot lawnmowers going up and down, making sure it was all neatly trimmed. And first time I'd seen one in the wild, nice big space for it to work in. Lo and behold, we went from Lamborghini to VTN. VTN took us to this restaurant high up in the hills where we were next door to sort of a country estate. And there in the country estate was another one. Maybe the same one. It may have escaped, but there was another one, a robot lawnmower. I think listen, if I had a robot lawnmower out the back of my house, I'd be a very happy bunny. Not sure what the dog would make of it. I'm not sure what our resident fox would make of it, but it would save me a job. I always have a bit of farmer's fix knocking about normally works. Sorry, I couldn't read that for the love of me. If manufacturers listen to operators of machines, they could improve their kit. I think they do to a degree. But again, I mean, and listen, I'm speaking in your defence, but let me take that on board. Dan, Chris, Jim, Ken, anybody else, Steve, if you were to be invited to JCB or Volvo or Caterpillar or Komatsu or Hitachi, and they said, okay, we're going to produce the limited edition Steve Williamson excavator. What are you doing? What are you doing to bring an excavator into the 21st century? And my guess is what you're going to do is not revolution, it will be evolution. It will be to take what is already there, and the mirrors need to be a bit better. The seat needs to be more comfortable. The in-cab screen needs to be a bit lower down. Are you actually going to suggest anything that really, really does the Elvis and really turns the thing on its head? If you are, I'd love to hear about it. I wonder about AI when something simple like predictive text screws you over regularly. Yeah, it's very true. Although, again, as with all forms of technology, I think a lot of it is down to how you use it. But I mentioned this earlier. I had an hour and a half on a Teams meeting with my mate Matt last night, and we were talking about a whole bunch of stuff. And we as I said, we did it on a Microsoft Teams call, and he was recording it. So I could have just watched the video back, but 90 minutes of video and a notepad, I could have done that quite easily. But what he actually did was to feed the transcript of our conversation through an AI. And about 20 minutes after we'd stopped speaking, I had a detailed and very, very, very accurate action list. Do this, do that, then do this, then do that. That, I think, when you harness those sort of things properly, really got scope. 28 miles apart, each service is in the UK. China is 10 miles and Switzerland too. I'm surprised with China because there's a lot of China. Switzerland, less surprised because everything's quite close in Switzerland. Not as bad as Belgium, but to be honest, in the construction demolition, there's not many visionaries to make change. No, I agree. And when you think back, I think if I was to sit here for long and hard enough, people like the founder of Lang O'Rourke and the founders of Balfour Beatty and stuff like that, proper visionaries, and even going back to the demolition industry, the Sidney Hunt Senior and the Claude Browns of this world, who really did put their stamp on the industry. Today, we will see that there's a new NFDC president on board. He took up the mantle in March. I've seen nothing, literally nothing. They'll be off on their convention fairly soon. Nothing. Just not anything major, That's the same with companies. Is there a company actually listening to their employees that are visionaries that no, they don't. No, they don't. That's the unfortunate part. Yeah, I think you're right. My late brother, says Christopher, went to Vegas to try and fix his money problems. Cut a long story short, he was found drugged and skinned in a back alley. The only good thing was he didn't have a sore ass. Yeah, you don't go to Vegas to fix your money problems. You go to Vegas to make your money problems a whole lot worse. Despite the fact that my wife, if she was sat in the background now, she would be telling you very, very loudly that she came away about $700 up last time we were there. More by luck than judgment, I can promise you. Every industry needs a radical overhaul. Until that time, it will be the same old. That is my thought. And I also wonder about, I'll use the automotive sector as the example, but I do think construction is exactly the same. When I was a kid, never into cars, never a petrol head, but if you saw a car in profile, back in the 70s when I was interested in such things, you saw a car in profile, you knew what it was. There's a TR7, there's a Volkswagen Beetle, there's a Rover 3500 or whatever it was, and there's a Ford Escort, there's a Ford Capri, there's a Ford Granada. You could look at them in profile, and in many cases, things like the shape of the grille on Jaguars, for example, the shape of the tail lights, Jaguar again, the wheel arches, you could tell a mile away. Oh, I know what that car is. You think about cars today, they are homogenized. A Tesla looks like a BMW, that looks like a Ford, that looks like a Kia, that looks like a Skoda, and so we go on. They all look exactly the same. Now, again, that might be the case that they've reached peak aerodynamics, they've reached peak car design, or have we lost the vision? Where is our Enzo Ferrari? Now you might argue that Elon Musk did a bit of that with the arrival of the Tesla. Yes, the power system used in it, the battery, definitely revolutionary. Yes, the speed at which it could travel. Yeah, an absolutely brilliant thing. The technology inside, the big screen and everything else, fantastic. But the car itself looks exactly the bleeding same as they always have done. And the one time that he has strayed from that, he's come up with a Cybertruck, which is a piece of crap. And looks awful. Looks like it was designed by a 6-year-old. Where is the vision? Was Elon Musk as visionary as Enzo Ferrari? No. Was he as visionary as Henry Ford? No. Are any of the construction equipment manufacturers today as visionary as Joe Bamford? No, in my opinion. Peter says, AI is good as long as you give it the right information to start with. Don't give it enough information, it has to fill in the rest. There is a science to it, and I know there are people now that are specializing in creating AI prompts. You're absolutely right. Do you know what? I think one of the issues that people are having with AI is that they're only scratching the surface. So when I finish this show and I've chopped it all up and put it on Instagram and YouTube and everything else, and I've done all that sort of thing, I actually have ChatGPT open on my computer, and I will sit here and talk to it. But I'll talk to it like I'm talking to a friend. I've got for example, today's morning monologue, I've got an idea of trying to show off the fact that the construction and demolition industry is overdue a shake-up. And, I'm thinking about a shake-up like Elvis shook up music back in the 50s, like The Clash shook up music in the 70s, like the original hip-hop artists shook up music in the 80s, and so on down the line. And that would be the way I'd be talking, not write me an article about construction equipment and how it hasn't changed. You've got to, and what I tend to find certainly with my use of ChatGPT is it's not the first answer. It's when they, that will come back. Oh, that's an interesting idea. Have you thought about including this? No, let's include that. And how did that work? And when you're doing the back and forth, the way I use AI is not to write. I use it as a sounding board to flesh out my ideas and to make sure that what I'm saying is right, to check facts and that kind of thing. And then I sit down. That's what I do. I'm a writer, so I will sit down and write it. But by and large, I will sit here and have a chat with it for 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, just batting things backwards and forwards before I think, okay, yeah, it's straight in my head now. Now I'm going to sit down and do it. Andy Thornton says, cars started looking the same when the Ford Fiesta came out. I've never thought of that, but I think you're right. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the arrival of the Ford Fiesta, and it was, the original Ford Fiesta was a perfectly good-looking compact car. But when you think about what that spawned, the Ford Fiesta is the Volkswagen Golf and so many other cars as well, and they all started to look the same. I drove past a new Ford Capri the other day, and I didn't know I was driving past a Ford Capri until I actually saw the badge out the corner of my eye, because the Ford Capri of today looks nothing like a Ford Capri of the 70s and 80s. And as a result, the Ford Capri of today looks like everything else that's on the road, whereas the Ford Capri of the 70s and 80s looked like nothing else on the road. Homogenized. Somebody said, yeah, Zahar, yeah, Donnet has just said hello, good morning, or good afternoon, good evening, whichever of those it is. Cars. The modern car is all plastic and looks awful. The new Ranger Rover, the BYD is horrible. OMG, says Dan Cullen. Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of me that thinks something like a Land Rover. Land Rover looks the same today as it did, in the trenches, pretty much. You go back to the 40s and 50s, the Land Rover ruled the world. It was as rugged as anything. It was there to do a job, and yes, they've rounded it off a bit, and it's got a bit more tech involved. But by and large, a Land Rover today is exactly the same as that. And I understand that it's a practical thing. But I mean, even if you're spending, top dollar on not necessarily a supercar, but a real luxury car like an Aston Martin or something like that, an Aston Martin from the 60s and the 70s had style and elegance and class. An Aston Martin of today looks like a Jag, that looks like a BMW, that looks like a Tesla. Dan says he's using AI to make flyers for his groups. Good stuff. That's true, Andy. The new Capri EV looks terrible. It just, I wouldn't even say it looks terrible. It just looks like everything else. Everything else. They destroyed the Land Rover, says Dan. Peter says, you just need to look at the car that happened across the country and how many young lads and lasses actually own cars that are over 30 years old rather than modern versions. I mean, I actually don't think that's such a bad thing. You know, if you can keep the cars going, maybe good for the environment. But, you know, when was the last time? I can think of one, and I'm probably having to go back 20 plus years. When was the last time you saw a new car? And I'm not talking concept cars, I'm talking actual road going vehicles. When was the last time you saw a new car and went, oh, well, that's different? Last one I can think of was the original shape Audi TT. What is that, 20, 25 years ago? And you know, it looked a bit like a squashed beetle. I mean, the car beetle, not the insect. But you know, whereas all the other cars are wedge shaped, the Audi TT was it kind of had curves and stuff. And I do remember thinking, oh, now that's different. I can't think of another one since. Full Capri looks like a Polestar, nothing like the classic. I agree 100%. There is another one. What was that one? The PT Cruiser. PT Cruiser, although it did look a bit like the car out the ZZ Top videos of the 80s. But the PT Cruiser, you know, I don't think it was a particularly good car, but at least you got the feeling that the designers had gone, hang on a minute, everyone's making cars that shape. We're going to do one like this. I do remember thinking that was an interesting design. But apart from that, well, and again, you know, let's liken it to construction equipment. When was the last time you saw a piece of plant and thought, oh, now, that is different? I think the Hydrodig from JCB, I realised it was a variation on the wheeled excavator theme, but it did look markedly different. I think their High-Vis dumper, which I don't think they actually saw through to fruition, but the High-Vis dumper was very, very markedly different. But apart from that, I genuinely can't think of anything. It's getting more and more easy to tell AI content from real original text. Yeah, it is. Although I think part of that is, well, I think part of that is how it's used. I think also it's because we are now a little more attuned to spotting it. M dashes and stuff like that. I do, but I think we dismiss it. Oh, I've knocked my ear roll out. I think we dismiss it a little too quickly. Something I don't even need these in there because I'm not listening to music. I think we dismiss it at our peril and a bit too quickly sometimes, purely because I think one of the issues we have. Excuse me a second. I'm just tired of knots. Bloody hell! Yeah, I think one of the issues we have is we've allowed too much pretty poor quality AI to be public. And I'm not saying I'm particularly clever or anything like that, but what I do with AI is not for public consumption. I do it behind the scenes. So as I say, I use it to flesh out an idea, to use it as a sounding board, you know, I, as a last check, my morning monologue today, before I actually sat here and read it out, I run it through AI to make sure that it sounded right and, you know, the flow was everything and the grammar was correct and everything else. So I use it for that, but it's not public facing. Nobody would know I'd used AI to run the final edit on my article because it was written by a human. I think where you start to have a problem is where you're, you know, and I've certainly seen this over on LinkedIn, you know, people are using AI to generate LinkedIn posts, which you can tell it's AI because it sounds like everything humans have ever done. It doesn't sound like somebody has actually given it some thought. It's I'm going to take 20 LinkedIn posts that I like, get AI to you know, mesh them all together and then create one of its own. That's not original thinking to my mind. There's no style. They've all got 20-inch screens. I'm not sure what he's talking about there. The first Range Rovers had plastic seats and plastic foot mats, and the tailgate rotted in 5 years. But again, when you go back to what I mean, particularly the Land Rover, the Land Rover was, a true off-road, sometimes even military vehicle. It had all of the plastic inside so you could hose it out. It wasn't a case of you had to take it to a detailer's or, get somebody to valet it for you. You hosed the bloody thing out because that was what it was designed for. But you think about all the off-road vehicles we have now, the 4x4s, where are they used? For the school run in Chelsea. I mean, I don't understand the appeal personally because you're paying an absolute fortune for the fuel in it. But where is the design? You think back to, we have, a classic design as far as I'm concerned would be the old VW camper, the one from the 60s and 70s. You look at it now, VW have updated it, and I know they produced some in, I think it was Mexico or Brazil for a while, in the meantime, but they've now relaunched it. It's about 10 times the price, even allowing for inflation, and it looks like a van with windows. The vibe and the feel and the aesthetics has gone. It's just homogenized. It's the amount of people that believe AI photos compared to real life does my head in. Did anyone see the one of the girl that doesn't exist at Wimbledon? Very attractive, blonde young lady sat in the audience, in the crowd at Wimbledon. Crowd behind her. She's wearing a white dress. I have to say, I had to look at it twice before I realised not a real person. Yeah. The Samsung with the helicopter cab was different its day. Yeah. Yeah. What was one? Was it Hymac or Priestman that had the cab in the middle rather than off to one side? That was different. But when you think about that, I mean, and therein lies another issue. I tend to think, because I'm a very old person now, I tend to think of the 70s being, 20 years ago when I was a kid. 50 years ago. They were 50 years ago. And what have we done in terms of cars and in terms of plant in the last 50 years that you could point to and go, yeah, that we use the expression game changer a lot. It's become a bit of a cliche now. Oh, it's a game changer. Is it? When was the last time you saw an actual game changer? The only one I can think of is probably Oil Quick. The first when Oil Quick first arrived, and I actually went out and saw it on site with a demolition contractor, and I stood there and thought, okay, yeah, we have just taken a shift, and I do think that has made some significant changes to the demolition industry and construction as well. But it's just a little attachment. That's all it is. Haribo Starmix, what's your favourite lunch? Or, well, being from the Netherlands, this won't make a great deal of sense to you, but pie and mash from a pie and mash shop in the heart of London, ideally from Manzy's in Tower Bridge Road. If that helps at all. You'd have to look it up. You probably wouldn't like it, although they do sell eels in the pie and mash shop, and I know the Dutch do like an eel. I don't know if you do, but the Dutch do like an eel. We have that in common. The only thing with the Samsung was rust. Didn't last long. Again, I don't think they were around for quite long enough. They were, when you think back to the early Komatsus, the early Hitachis, I think you could have leveled the same criticisms at those. Cabs too small, bit boxy, prone to rust. Now look at them. They are the global leaders, I would suggest. Anywho, people, we've been going for an hour and 35 minutes. That was never the intention. I apologise for keeping you for so long. Go back and do something far more useful now, would you? I'll be back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then I'm away for 2 weeks. So if you could be here on Monday, I'll try and make it worth your while with something new and exciting to talk about. Until then, everybody, have a fantastic weekend. Hope you get some decent weather. I'm not hopeful, but I hope you get some decent weather. And I will see you on Monday. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day and a great weekend. All the best.